Hello and welcome to healthyhouseplants.com, where we teach you all about gardening in the great indoors. If you'd like to support our show, please use our Amazon affiliate link below. Today we have a plant care video on Christmas cactus, one of my favorite flowering plants. I just love this plant. It is such a beauty. Here's a pink one. You can also find them in red and other shades of pink and purple and lavender and white and peach and just the colors of the rainbow. Beautiful, beautiful plant. Even the flowers themselves, they're just so gorgeous. I just love them. They can be also, they're very long-lived plants, so they can grow for many years. They're a really nice plant to hand over the generations. My grandmother had one for many years, and she gave it to my cousin when she passed away, and it is thriving. So, and every year around this time, it will bloom indoors and just is a lovely reminder of her and just a lovely plant to have in your indoor garden during the winter months. These plants generally bloom anywhere between Thanksgiving and Christmas for you. And like I said, just light up your indoors. So going to talk to you about how to keep this beauty nice and healthy and happy in your indoor garden. So they are native to the jungles of Brazil, where they grow on trees there. So they actually grow upside down from the way that we grow them, hanging from trees. So you can come around a corner and there they are if you're in the jungle, hanging from a tree and looking absolutely lovely. They have various color combinations, as I mentioned. They let's see. So there's also frillier flowered ones, and some with some variegation pattern in the flowers themselves. So if you find some unusual ones, especially, do snap them up, because you never know when you see if you'll see them again or when you'll see them again. So I'm going to give you some really good tips here on how to keep them healthy and happy. So for one thing, you do want them in the coolest room of your house, because the problem is, even though they are from the tropics, when you have them in a warm room and they bud up in the winter months for you, they will drop those buds if it gets too warm. So you want to keep them away from any heating and air conditioning ducts, because that's a real bummer if you've been waiting all year to see this beauty bloom and then the buds drop. So keep that in mind. They also need some to not be watered too much when they are in bloom. So generally, you want to keep this on the dry side anyway, and you definitely don't want to water them when they've budded up. So once they've budded up, unless they're extremely dry, just let it be and let them bloom. Really droughty conditions can cause bud drop as well. But what you don't want to do is, if it's still on the damp side, just let it go and let it bloom, because any little thing, like I mentioned, the heating duct coming, the air coming from that, or moving the plant too much, or watering the plant, they will drop those buds. Because remember, they aren't in their native habitat when they're in your indoor garden. So anything that can throw off those buds will. So that's something to keep in mind. Definitely, obviously, would be repotting with the buds on. That could also cause problems. Okay, so the mentioned watering. So you want to water when it's barely damp. I would say on the moisture meter when it's just hitting the 3 on the moisture meter. If you forget for a day, you're going to be okay, because they are technically a succulent plant, so they do not do well with overwatering. So as far as your finger, if you're going to stick your finger in, the first ½ inch or so dry. On bigger plants, the first inch or so dry. Very important, even going down 2 inches. Fertilize the plant when it's actively growing and not dormant. Christmas cactus is dormant when it is flowering, which is November through February, so you want to fertilize the plant from March until late September when the plant is putting on new foliage growth. Use an organic fertilizer at half strength. For flower buds to form next year, the plants must receive 10 to 12 hours of darkness per day beginning at the end of September. Place the plants in a room where you usually don't turn on the lights at night. A room with an eastern exposure is best. Water sparingly during that time. In early March, put your Christmas cactus back into a brighter room. The Christmas cactus will resume growth and continue growing through the spring, summer, and early fall before budding up and flowering once again to repeat the cycle. They sometimes do need staking when they get very heavy with blooms, so it's perfectly fine and a good idea to stick some staking in and to tie with green tie tape or something that has some give to it to keep the stems upright somewhat so that they don't get too heavy and break, because they can break. They are plants they have joints in their stems, so at the joint point, they can actually it can become too heavy and they can't break off at that point. If that does happen, however, what you want to do is propagate the plant. So you would let that point where it broke off at the joint, that point there, harden off a little bit, and I do have a video on how to do that with succulents, and then use some rooting hormone and put them in a rooting mixture, and then you would have a whole new plant. So if you do have some fall off of the plant, you can go ahead and grow new plants as well. So the repotting, you would want to repot in the spring or early summer after a growth period. You want to repot probably every 2 to 4 years is fine. You want a mixture that is 60% peat moss and 40% perlite. So really good drainage or pumice. And I do have a pumice product. I'll put the link below. So really good drainage and also moisture retentive. That's what they really do well in. When you do water these plants, you want to water with warm water, and you want to do that with all of your house plants, especially in the winter months. And you want to water till water rushes out of the bottom, and then make sure to put them in whatever tray or wherever you have. Make sure that they aren't sitting in any water when you put it back where the plant belongs. Some pests, they don't get too many pests, but if you might occasionally see a mealybug on them, sometimes scale, but it's very uncommon, which is another reason why I really like this plant as well. If you do live in an area where it's fairly temperate, you can put these guys out in the summer months. You wouldn't want to put them in a really an area where it's watering a lot, because you want to make sure that they keep dry. So if you are in an area where it rains a lot in the summertime, make sure to put them under a patio cover or something where they're not getting constantly hit by rain. But otherwise, they do over summer very nicely too. Then when it starts, the summer is ending, you want to get them into that room, like I mentioned, that is a darker room, so that you can set up the whole budding cycle again. In terms of temperatures indoors, they really like it on the cooler side, as I believe I mentioned already. So what you want to do is you want to look for rooms that are 60 to 65 degrees. That's the ideal place for them, if that's possible. And lighting, as mentioned, changing that to a milder lighting, a softer eastern exposure lighting during their dormant period, and then moving them into higher light the rest of the year. So, and when they are blooming is when you really want to see them too. So that actually works really well for that milder lighting, to put them in the middle of a table, in the middle of your dining room table, your kitchen table, or on a side table somewhere. Okay, so that is it for taking care of these beauties, so that you have a lovely houseplant, Christmas cactus houseplant at Christmas time or Thanksgiving. And sometimes they bloom in January when all the festivities are over, and then you have another really pretty bloom to brighten up your long winter. Thank you for stopping by today. Please leave any comments about any indoor gardening tutorials you'd like to see. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. And please check the bell if you'd like to be notified when new videos are released.